The member for London West.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I rise today to join the debate on Bill 28, legislation that follows a long line of anti-worker bills that this government has brought forward. We saw that in their first term of office when they introduced Bill 124, when they did a complete override of collective agreements with the emergency orders. So in some ways, this legislation is not all that surprising. What is of concerning, however, about Bill 28 compared to those previous acts of this government is its unprecedented use of the notwithstanding clause and the override of the human rights protections that are included in the Human Rights Code. This is the first use in Canada of the notwithstanding clause to suppress constitutionally protected charter rights. The courts have been very clear that freedom of association includes the right to fair and free collective bargaining as well as the right to strike. This government removes those constitutionally protected charter rights and will engage this government for years in court fights about the government's use of these provisions. You know, just last week in this place we eulogized Bill Davis, who was part of the group who patriated the Constitution, and Bill Davis brokered the deal that brought us the notwithstanding clause, and he was very, very clear that it was to be used very, very sparingly, and it was to be used to provide new benefits for disadvantaged or marginalized populations, not to use the heavy sledgehammer of legislation during collective bargaining. As my other colleagues have mentioned, it is clear that this bill took some time for the government to write. This was not a bill, that they came off a word processor in a couple of days. They have been working on this bill for months, Speaker, as CUPE members have been sitting at the table waiting for the government to negotiate in good faith. And who are these CUPE workers? They are education assistants, they are early childhood educators, they are custodians, they are school secretaries, they are the backbone of our education system, and they are the lowest paid workers in our education system, and so low paid, in fact, Speaker, that many are relying on food banks, as we have pointed out time after time. There was a survey that CUPE undertook of its members, which found that half of CUPE members struggle to pay their bills each month. The paycheck won't cover basic necessities of food, of utilities, of transportation. They're not getting a sufficient salary to meet those financial obligations that they have to feed their families and maintain some semblance of a quality of life. 1/4 of CUPE members said they couldn't afford gas or public transportation on the wages that they were being paid. More than 2/3 of CUPE members said that they had to stop setting aside money for savings because there was no money to put aside at the end of the month. So, Speaker, these are not workers who are being, well compensated and are asking for unreasonable wage increases. They are workers who are asking to be paid what they are worth. And we saw during the pandemic how very crucial these workers are to the health and safety, to the academic success, to the well-being of children in this province. Do children matter to this government? Does it matter to this government that there are caring adults in our school system who are able to support kids in schools? This government talks about the fact that they want to bring stability and end disruption in our school system, but if they watched what happened after Bill Bill 115 under the Liberals, when a collective agreement was imposed on education workers. The aftermath of that legislative action lasted years, Speaker, and I was one of those trustees who was there at the time of Bill 115. I saw the complete demoralization of education workers across the education system. I saw parent frustration higher than it had ever been because of the dismal atmosphere in our schools. We saw students who were losing opportunities that they needed to engage in education and be successful and go on. And that is the legacy that this government is going to be bringing to public education with this action. And you know, there is speculation that maybe this is all part of the government's plan to privatize more and more of our public services. And you know, the direct payments to parents that have been flowing out during this pandemic, and the $345 million catch-up payments to parents is all part of a backhand way of privatizing public services. The government says that parents should be trying to chase down tutors to help their kids in school, but parents are saying that they know that what will help kids in school is having early childhood educators, it's having educational assistants, it's having custodians, it's having school secretaries who are compensated appropriately and there to support their kids. And I just wanted to read a couple of emails that I have received from parents. One parent wrote to me, "The lack of support for educational staff is callous and unforgivable. I have 2 primary school-age children, and frankly, no amount of mental health support can prepare us for yet another year of disruption and virtual school. The kids need to be at school, and educational staff need to be adequately compensated." Another parent with 2 elementary school-age children says, "If a strike is necessary for these workers to be treated fairly, their right to strike should absolutely not be taken away. Our children have had a lot of disruptions these last few years, but we cannot agree with the idea of the government taking away the right to strike. It shows us that the government is not working to bargain in good faith." Speaker, I implore this government, there are several days left before November 4th. Withdraw this bill. Get back to the bargaining table. Talk to CUPE workers. Negotiate a fair deal. Give our kids the supports that they need in our classrooms and help preserve quality public education in Ontario. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. We'll now go to question and recognize the member for Brampton Brett.
Thank you, Speaker. If there's been one thing that's become abundantly clear over the hours of debate, almost 5 as of right now, is that every provincial government does its battles with education unions, period. If we go back in time to when the opposition was in power in the 90s, they actually put across a bill that left everyone at zero, froze salaries and required teachers and everyone else to take 12 unpaid days off a year. When the independent Liberals were in power most recently in 2012 and the NDP held the balance of power, even though they may not have supported Bill 115, education workers saw a 0% increase at all. So my question to the member from London West is a 2.5% increase, 10% over 4 years, a better deal than what the opposition parties have offered?
Thank you. The member for London West to respond.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate the question. I think that all of us on this side of the House have been very clear that workers deserve to be fairly compensated, and they deserve to bargain the compensation that they're going to receive at a bargaining table through fair and free collective negotiations. This government has decided to invoke an imposed contract on these workers rather than sitting down in good faith to talk about what kind of a deal will compensate them fairly and preserve the supports that our children receive in Ontario classrooms.
Thank you.